Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with Stephanie podcast. I am so excited to be interviewing Johnny, otherwise known as Vega Rican on the socials. We're going to be talking about his self-healing journey, which is something very near and dear to my heart, as you probably know if you've been watching my YouTube channel. All about self-healing and self-love. So super excited to get into this conversation. Johnny, would you like to give us a little introduction about who you are and what you're up to in the world?
Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, sure. My name is Johnny, as you mentioned. I was actually born with that name. People constantly ask me, is that your real name? But it really is. That's what my mother named me. And I am a 49-year-old living in Mesa, Arizona after living my whole life in California. And I a local grassroots animal rights activist. I'm an avid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, as well as I coach at Gracie Baja East Mesa. And I've got two little dogs, the two little rescue dogs, and spend a lot of my time with them, as well as rescuing other dogs and cats and birds and all kinds of stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm sure there's a lot more, but in a nutshell, that's it.
That's wonderful. Awesome. I'm super excited to learn a little more about your jiu-jitsu practice too. Like I said, we're going to talk about self-healing and just the different practices that Johnny has done throughout his life that have helped him in his own self-healing journey. I'll probably have some nuggets of wisdom to interject in there too. The first thing that you mentioned was stretching. Now, is it something specific about stretching? Do you yoga, or is it a combination of practices?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of practices. I always say that I need more yoga in my life, but I definitely incorporate yoga as much as I can, whether it's at home, on my big screen, on a YouTube, or whether I go with friends to their regular classes. I seem to have a lot of yoga friends. But more so than that, I have a mat here at home that I stretch out on. For doing jiu-jitsu for over 10 years, I'm probably the least flexible practitioner out there. I don't know if it's because of my age or whatnot, or I don't know if there's a lot of tightness in my body, but stretching at home has been extremely therapeutic and advantageous when it comes to me being ready to go and train or coach, whether it's something as simple as me leaning on a counter and stretching my hamstrings, squats, or just like I said, laying my mat down and breathing and trying to open up my hips, amongst other little exercises that I don't even have names for, but that are right and they're conducive to my body. So that's a daily thing. I think I need that, not just for jiu-jitsu, but just for life in itself.
I totally agree. I think the more of us that stretch, like even just before driving, just get your body loosened up before you do something, because a lot of times that's when injury happens because we didn't stretch. So stretching is so vital for any kind of physical activity. You mentioned that you have experienced Reiki. So I am very, very passionate about Reiki. I've been a practitioner since 2015.
Awesome.
I love to offer Reiki services. Ooh. And you've been receiving Reiki. So tell me about your Reiki experience.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine, Nicole. She lives really close by. She's, conveniently like literally 2 miles away, and she has meditation ceremonies and sound healing ceremonies and does all these things, but at the same time she also does body work on me, and she does this, and she's just an amazing friend. She knows what my body is like, or what I put it through, and so every once in a while I'm blessed enough for her to be like, come over here and let me do some body work for you, whether it's because she's doing it for me or whether it's because she's doing it to practice on somebody. I don't know, but she has a an amazing business or healing center on our property in our home. And you know, it's just it's helped me, you know, even out pain that's centralized in certain areas. And when she, you know, she uses heated rocks and that clacking, the clacking sound that she uses when she's dispersing it through my body, I just, you know, it when I leave there, I don't leave healed. I don't leave there, you know, oh, all the pain's gone. It's just a lot more evened out and spread out through my body. So it's just not focused in one spot. And I definitely don't do it as much as I should. But then again, you know, as you know, Reiki can be pricey. So yeah, I had always heard about it. You know, for some reason or another, again, I know a lot of Reiki healers and a lot of Reiki masters, and you know, I didn't understand it a whole lot. I had done already I've done acupuncture for many years. My mother introduced me to that, you know, maybe about 25 years ago, and acupressure and massage therapy and physical therapy. I've gone through all those things just so that I can keep my body maintained and, you know, avoiding all those check engine lights that happen when you're my age. Reiki's just been an amazing addition to that little portfolio I have of healing.
Wonderful. Actually, I know Nicole. I might include her website. We're
That's
talking
awesome.
about her. I'll include her website and link her in our conversation in the description.
That'd be awesome.
I think she also hosts some sound healing. You mentioned sound healing has been part of your journey as well.
Yeah.
So what has your experience been with sound healings? I've had some really positive experiences and also some somewhat negative experiences with sound healing. I'd
Really?
love to hear about your perspective.
I think that, well, let's address that negative. I think that, you know, like any type of non-Western medicine, you know, leaning healing, or alternative healing, if you will. I think that sometimes people come in with expectations and they think that, you know, they're gonna go through this session and all their problems are gonna go away, or they have this mentality of, well, you know, I've got bad knees and I still have bad knees, and or whatever it is. I think that people's attitude, I think your attitude is everything going into it. And so
Yeah.
if you don't think it's going to work, or if you have this expectation in your mind, you know, I think for very few people it works like that. Like, wow, it's a miracle. But it's obviously it's a progression. It's not something that happens overnight. You know, like with acupuncture, perfect example. I was going through a stressful time in my life, and I went through like 5 acupuncture sessions, like within a few weeks or something, and I felt significant decrease in anxiety and stress. But that wasn't just acupuncture; it was that coupled with, you know, drinking less coffee, getting more rest, doing all these other things that kind of go together. And so my experience has been that I've been able to maintain my mobility, my speed, my strength, all these good things that I need, because with Jiu-Jitsu, it's an extremely grueling thing to the body. So I think that if I didn't do any of those things, I would have gone through some major or serious injury in the last 10 years, which, you know, knock on wood, I haven't had one yet, you know, but every person that I started this jiu-jitsu journey with 10 years ago, 80 or 90% of them have gone through reconstructive surgery of some sort or have had some major injury. And so, you know, I think that all these healing methods coupled with just training smart, listening to my body, has made for me, you know, has made for a more sustainable, you know, frame so that I can continue to do these things.
That's awesome. So sound healing, what specifically have you experienced with sound healing?
That's right. We talked about sound healing. So sound healing, you know, I think that all of our bodies, you know, it's mostly water, and, you know, I think that you know, certain frequencies at certain time and at certain lengths, and just being in the right position and relaxed. I think that, again, that you could feel it resonating through your body when you're doing these sound healing ceremonies, usually with crystal bowls or any type of really like symbols have been used. I've gone to several different sound healing sessions from different practitioners, and so again, I usually go to these things when I feel anxious or feeling like something's going on in my life. It's kind of like when people say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I got to go to church," and they go to run to church and they look for it in God. I think that it's helped me not only with physical trauma, but again, it has to be something consistent, coupled with other things. But just even emotional trauma and just for mental health, I think it's just very relaxing. It puts you in a space to where there's really nothing else other than you with your closed eyelids, and you're receiving those frequencies and then your body kind of decides what it's going to do with it. So my personal experience with it has been extremely positive. And the few people that I've heard say that, oh, I've tried it before, I kind of dig in. I go, really, where did you try it? And, I start getting curious, and I kind of find out, well, you really didn't do any sound healing, did you? Undoubtedly, sound healing has been done for thousands of years, and it's worked for thousands of years for a reason. So it's been very effective with me.
Wonderful. Yeah. My experience with sound healing, I had a Reiki master do some sound healing on me. This was like more than a decade ago. That was my first sound healing experience. And she used drums and rattles and cymbals and all kinds of things. It was very interesting. It wasn't uncomfortable at all. It was actually really soothing. But then recently I went to a sound healer, and this was with a group of ladies. And for whatever reason, so he was doing different chakra sounds, so different chakra vibrations or frequencies. And when he got to my solar plexus chakra, that particular bowl, my whole body started to get really uncomfortable. I'm like, wow, what just happened? And I realized I was in a sitting position and my body wanted to be laying down. So all I had to do was change my position to a laying down position, and my body was like, yes, okay, let's relax. This is better. So that was somewhat negative, but I mean, the whole experience was really positive. But then I took a friend to a local sound healing experience, and she didn't have a very positive experience at all. She said that the rattles were inconsistent and the sounds were driving her crazy, and she just wanted to get out of there. I was like, wow, okay. That was her first sound healing experience, and perhaps with somebody that doesn't do sound healing as a profession, so maybe less experienced, so maybe she felt that. I have no idea. But I find sound healing to be extremely beneficial for the body and the mind. And yes, especially healing trauma, because there are stuck energies in our bodies from traumas and various experiences. And it's important for us to process that stuff. And that actually leads us beautifully into the self-introspection work and reflection that you've done, and especially the shadow work that you've done. I'd love to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a recent phenomenon for me. Not knowing what it was and just kind of having to just Google it and do research on it a little bit. Yeah. Sound, from my understanding, shadow work is working on those things that are, beneath the surface, things that are on our subconscious levels, and why we do certain things, behaviors that we have that and we don't quite understand. That I think, what's really allowed me to do some of it, or to be able to gather traction and wanting to do it more and more, has been meditation. So I've been doing meditating, whether it's guided meditation or whether it's a sound meditation or just quiet meditation on my own. it's really allowed me to kind of quiet my mind and think about some of these, um, I guess you could say, emotional traumas that I've had, or that I'm recently experiencing and not knowing why. And just in quiet in my mind and asking myself certain questions like, where did that come from? I mean, we can go in a little further. My father, he was, a machista. He is, definitely a misogynist, Costa Rican, typical Latin American man, and his idea or his mentality was, of course, he's the provider. My mother was the one that took care of the house, and he can go out on the weekends and he could do whatever he wanted, basically, because his thing always was, I always provide. And so, I for many, many years, I resented him because of that, but not unknowingly, I was inheriting a lot of that stuff, and I took a lot of that bad stuff with me. And although as I've gotten older, of course, my attitude is not, oh, I'm the provider, or I've shed myself from a lot of that patriarchal ugliness. There's still little tiny remnants of that, in a lot of my stuff. And so that, initially when things don't go my way and it comes to relationships or friendships or any type of connection I have, it really, I've now been able to stop and kind of self-reflect and go, no, what am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Well, it's, I've gotten past that point where I was blaming everyone else for some of the things that weren't going my way. And just that shadow work has allowed me to go, no, dude, the problem is you. And be able to just kind of go through those emotions and feel those emotions, not ignore them, not push them aside or push them down further, but to kind of say to yourself, you're a jerk, you're an idiot, stop, and just ensure that then into your next connection or into my next relationship, I'm not dragging that baggage with me. So shadow work is a recent phenomenon, but it's definitely something that I'm very passionate about continuing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, if more people could take individual responsibility for their person, their attitude, their perspectives, their opinions, all of that stuff, and stop blaming the world for everything, it would be amazing. Because there are so many people that are still stuck in that victim mentality. Oh, it's your fault, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, we are self-motivated human beings that have our own actions and our own perspectives that do have an effect. Even if we said absolutely nothing in a situation, there's still energy there. There's still attitudes. There's still, eye contact or lack thereof. There's all kinds of things that come into play with human interaction, and how we either take responsibility for our person and our way of being, or we will say, well, no, it was not me, it was you. And it's such, all ridiculous bullshit. Sorry. So I think that it's super important for us as human beings, as a collective, to recognize that human experience requires us to take a certain amount of responsibility for ourselves, or 100% of responsibility for ourselves. We shouldn't be blaming other people for our own misgivings or our own traumas or our own ways. So very, very important stuff. With your practices of self-introspection, you mentioned meditation. Do you ever do any kind of journaling or any kind of reflection in that nature?
Yes, I've done. And again, this is all a recent phenomenon. I didn't even know how to journal. But yeah, I have a big book there that's right in the middle of my dining room table, which is where I actually do my art and where I eat and everything. It's just kind of like my central area. Right in the middle of it is a big black journal that I've got. And at first it was just aimless, thoughts just written down on paper, but then it became more about, what my day was like, experiences that I've had throughout the day, how it made me feel. And I've yet to have, it's so recent that I've yet to go back and start to read that any progression that any progress I've made. But it's definitely, I'm at that time where I'm spilling it all out onto a journal. So yes, I know that that's a definite positive or strong tool that that's gonna help me in my journey. And so yeah, again, recent phenomenon, but definitely doing that.
Wonderful. I love it. Well, it sounds like you've been on this journey for a long time, but there are all these new things that have shown up. Where do you think, was it just things that you saw online that grabbed your attention? You thought, that might work, or was it a suggestion from someone?
Well, yeah, I'm blessed to be around and a lot of amazing people and strong people. My mother being one of them, she's a wise woman that, is just full of advice, whether it's solicited or not, moms. I have an older daughter. I have a daughter that's in her 20s, and she's working on her master's right now on behavioral therapy, and she's a source of information for me as well. I mean, we're past the, hey, you're my little girl stage, to now, she's just this amazing woman that came from me, that is just immersing herself in studies and self-improvement. And so her, along with just my friends, a lot of friends of mine that have already been going through that journey. During a time when I thought, oh, I don't need to do any of that stuff. I'm built different, that type of attitude. I've kind of, been watching them from a distance. And then, of course, those that are really close to me that feel confident enough to be like, hey, John, this might help you. Yes. Google has helped for sure. But definitely my peers and my friends, my colleagues, if you will, not working colleagues, but just people that I do work away from my paycheck job. And their words of wisdom has kind of given me guidance and direction in this journey.
Wonderful. So you mentioned art and music as being one of those things that has always been part of your life, that has been a healing journey because of it. I'd love to hear your perspective on that, and maybe separate them. So art first, then music.
Sure. Yeah, it's all in one, right?
Sure.
Music is definitely art. I grew up playing the violin at a young age. It was kind of forced onto me because my brother didn't want to do it anymore. My mother had spent the money on the violin, so she's like, "You're going to play the violin." So against my will, I played 5 years through junior high and high school, and our junior high and high school orchestras were at competitive levels. So we were rated superior in our region, and so of course there was a time when it wasn't cool with the ladies anymore to play violin. I wanted to start being cool. So I put that aside, but and then I hated it because it was like 2 hours of practice a day and just really uncomfortable, competitive situations. I was not the best violinist in my art orchestra, so I was constantly criticized. And of course, it was for my own good, but I just felt like I was constantly going somewhere and being corrected, and I didn't want to do that. But unbeknownst to me, I took. Are you okay? Okay. Unbeknownst to me, I took reading music. So all these years, many years later, I of course did play any instruments. I hated playing instruments. I really kind of even hated listening to music. I was more into talk shows and podcasts for so many years into my young adulthood and entering my adulthood. Once I was married and I had kids and stuff, and I just started becoming a man, I stayed away from all that stuff. And again, a recent phenomenon. It wasn't until recently to where I was going through some certain things, and I thought, well, what's this djembe like? What's this drum thing they call a djembe? And I just picked it up, and over years, I used to finger strum a lot on desks and on tables, and I think it was a nervous mechanism for me. I would just finger tap a whole lot, which I didn't know, again, but unbeknownst to me, developed a lot of finger strength, and understanding repetitive patterns. And so I picked up a djembe one day, and I was, in my opinion, almost immediately good. And so that journey has continued, and that went from that to the guitar, or the ukulele. Picked up the ukulele. I thought, okay, stringed instrument, kind of same as a violin. So I enjoyed that, and then I picked up a guitar, and then it was over. I fell in love with the guitar. So I've been playing instruments at home on my time off, or even making time for it now. I kind of relish to do that, and so that's been kind of my musical thing. And as far as art's concerned, I was recently inspired because I've been organizing a weekly chalk event at Tempe Town Lake, or Tempe Beach Park, I'm sorry, where we invite local vegan activists to come out and chalk for animals. And so we've been doing that every Wednesday, even during this heat. And a small group of us have coming out. We've been expressing ourselves and our feelings about animal agriculture and vegan lifestyle. And we've been doing it in the form of chalk. And when I came home a couple months ago and realized I had these soft pastel chalks, and I didn't know that I had it, and I had some construction paper there, and so I've been just chalking at home on construction paper prolifically. Like, I'm doing 2 or 3 of them a night, and so that's just been entertaining. It's super therapeutic for me. It's just been able to allow me to coast and just find happiness in a different way.
That is wonderful. I am also an artist. I love creating things. I just recently started making jewelry because I like making things, and I just realized, you know what? I've made a few of my own mala beads, and that's something I love to do. So mala necklaces are used in meditation, and usually Hindu practices. They count or they chant 108 times. And they actually use a mala necklace, and bead by bead, every mala necklace is 108 beads. So they'll count each bead as a chant. This chant, next chant, next chant, next, and basically use as a tool to help with the meditation, which is absolutely beautiful. But then mala beads are also very trendy. So a lot of people, especially women who practice yoga, tend to wear mala necklaces, or they'll put them around their wrist and wear them around the wrist. But it's just a common practice. So I realized, you know what? There aren't a lot of people that are making them locally. And I infuse them with Reiki because I can. So they're Reiki infused crystal and wood jewelry. And so far it's been so much fun. So eventually I'll have an Etsy store, and you'll be able to find them online. Right now I'm just featuring them all in a local coffee shop.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And I am a singer. I'm an alto. So I use my voice as my musical instrument, which is so much fun.
I love that. And that's another thing. I do karaoke. I karaoke here by myself. I'm not great at it, but I love singing.
Nice.
Yeah, my last 2 relationships, 3 relationships have been musicians for some reason or another. So I think that my life is kind of gravitating towards musical people and people that can express themselves that way. So I love singing. I didn't know I knew how to sing, or I didn't know that I loved singing until I started dating a musician. And then she'd always do karaoke, and then she's like, why don't you try? And all of her and her musician friends would be there, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't want to sing in front of these people. That's terrifying. And I just started doing it, and now I do it on my own. It's amazing. I love that you sing. That's awesome.
I hear your little dog barking. So tell me about your little doggies.
Oh my God. I have two dogs named Cosmo and Princess. Cosmo is 7 and Princess is about 11 or so. They both came back out of a horrific backyard scenario. Princess was the the one that got the brunt of it, the mom. She had like 5 litters back there and never had a bath in between her litters. And she had long dreadlocks longer than her body. She was dragging around her. And Cosmo came into the world. And as a puppy, we took him out of the backyard and picked the fleas right off of him. I've never had an animal. I wasn't raised with animals. I was kind of indifferent to them. Even when I went vegan, I was just like, okay, but we got Cosmo, and then I always knew that I wanted to go back for his mom, Princess, which was the one that was back there mistreated. But there was about maybe 10, anywhere between 10 and 15 dogs in that backyard for years. And so over those years, my old partner and I, we rescued all those dogs. One of the last ones being Princess. And then once I got Princess, they didn't like us, exposing their backyard, so they didn't allow us to do it anymore. But yeah, they're both rescues now. They're both vegan dogs, and they have a completely balanced diet, and their coats are rich, and they hardly ever take them to the vet. And when it's not so hot, they get 3 to 4 walks a day, and they eat organic steamed veggies, and they're spoiled babies.
I love it. Absolutely love it. So you mentioned very briefly that you're an animal rights activist. So other
Yes.
than doing the action that you're doing at Tempe Town Lake with the chalk design, what else do you do with your activism?
Oh yeah, I do it all. I do everything from artivism with chalk, to protests, to speak outs, to writing letters to Congress, making phone calls, emails. I was organizing recently with the Direct Action Everywhere, or DXE chapter here in Phoenix, who does a lot of fur protests. They do protests for Rose's Law, which is basically a law that we're trying to pass that basically says any animal that, or any being that is needing of help, if they're sick, if they're hurt, that being deserves to be rescued and to be given health medical treatment and be taken care of, regardless of property lines. And so this is where it gets interesting. So I've done a lot of work with them. I'm doing a lot of independent actions, and so I've stepped away from organizing for them, but I definitely support all of their actions that they do. I also do a monthly street outreach event that I call The Truth. And I usually do it at First Fridays, but I also do it in Tempe. Last month I did it in Scottsdale, when basically we stand in a geometric formation. If there's 4 people, they stand, in opposing ways, north, south, east, west, and they're dressed all in black, and they have flat screen TVs with footage of Dominion, which is a documentary that you can find on YouTube, basically, that showcases what happens in the animal agriculture industry, animal slaughter industry. And we stand in a public area in a static formation, and the people in the middle, they don't speak. They're wearing masks for theatrics, to get people to look at us and say, what the hell are you guys doing out here in masks and showing slaughter footage? And that's the exact kind of reaction we want from people. We don't, we get reactions from, the whole gamut, from people completely mortified and outraged that we're out there. People scream at us. Some people cry. A lot of people come up and give us the thumbs up and, oh, we love what you're doing. But if they're anywhere near that formation, and we will engage in conversation with that person and tell them, hey, so what do you think is going on here? And then let the conversation unravel. And it's a fantastic social experiment that's being done in many cities all around the world, and they do it in different forms. I just do my own variation here. And I've got one coming up on the 11th of August, and we're going to do it in downtown Gilbert. And this one is going to be an all white event because it's always usually really dark and, a bunch of black wearing, vegan people with slaughter footage. We want to kind of soften it a little bit this time. We're wearing all white. So we're going to do an all white ceremony. As well as I just got back from the Animal Liberation Conference in Berkeley, California, which was an amazing 1-week event. 13 animals was rescued, and we did an amazing march all throughout the streets of San Francisco, as well as I just got back from the San Diego Animal Rights March, where I was able to connect with a lot of old friends and make new friends. And so, yeah, I can go on and on and on talking about the activities I do in animal rights, the animal rights movement.
Well, that is awesome. So I think that is everything that we wanted to talk about today. Do you have any final thoughts or inspiration that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I think that being a 49-year-old man, my kids are grown. I've got 2 grandkids. I feel alive, more alive than I've ever felt in my life. I have energy, and I have a positive outlook in life, more so than I ever have. And I could definitely attribute that to just a vegan lifestyle, not just eating vegan, but to have an attitude or a view of not commodifying animals in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in my fashion or my, hand cream or whatever, shaving cream. If it's tested on animals, if it has an animal product, I just don't buy it. And I've been vegan now 7 years. And so that's not even anything I really even think about anymore. I just kind of glance at ingredients and stuff. And so my point is that I think that vegan lifestyle is allowing me to have all this positivity and this energy for life and for everything that I do. I guess the message would be that it's never too late. It's never too late to, start a business. It's never too late to start your own podcast. It's never too late to start a martial art. I mean, I have students that are in their 50s and their 60s that they're just starting Jiu-Jitsu, which is a grueling art form. And there they are, paying to put their body in a situation that is painful. But they're doing that with purpose. It's never too late to fall in love. It's never too late to buy a house. It's never too late to do anything. You're only as old as you feel. And I think that, self-improvement in every way, mind, body, and soul is key. Don't get stuck. Get off your couch. Get out there and just do it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Johnny. This has been an awesome conversation. I cannot wait to share it with our community. So thank you. And I hope you have an awesome day.
Thank you, you too.